Denny won the pole for the Grant Park 220 here as part of the Chicago Street Race. This is Denny's third pole of 2023. It's his ninth top 10 starting position of 2023, and it's also his 39th career pole as well. So Denny, congratulations on being able to lead the field to the green on a historic weekend. If you don't mind, before we get started, to talk a little bit about your lap, but also just kind of your first impressions of being here in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, just really props to NASCAR and the city for, making it happen. I certainly was pessimistic when it was first announced. I started warming up to it a little bit in the months leading up, but obviously when you see the fans that are walking around here on a Saturday, their excitement of just seeing a NASCAR race car up close, taking pictures, I mean, it kind of is like this is what we were supposed to do here. So I mentioned on the podcast last week that like the sooner we just kind of understand the gravity of the event and not get caught up too much in, the on-track stuff, I think the better off we're going to be. And certainly we were very optimistic and about today. I certainly didn't like waking up to rain. I thought that really could have changed things for me quite a bit. And hopefully it does not rain tomorrow. But it just was a great day. Probably my single best day at the racetrack in all of my career for sure.
Now go to questions for Denny. If you have one, raise your hand. We'll work to get a mic to you. We're going to start up front with Reed.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. You ran your fastest lap, obviously, on the final lap of the day. Was there not much tire fall off, or was it more getting used to the course? And was it an advantage only having to run one lap in the first round?
It was, but I messed up the first time. In the final round when I ran the 88.9, I knew that I left a ton of time on the racetrack. And so, I mean, I thought that the competition was going to let me get away with it, but Shane obviously put up a great lap, and I knew that, 3/4 I could probably go get that in certain areas, and so we did, and I still didn't hit it perfect, but it was, kind of just enough. But the tire fall off, I thought that it's really coming from reps. I think that the tires, if you were optimized and the drivers were perfect machines, it would run fastest on lap one. But it's just the reps is what's getting us a little bit faster.
All right, Bob.
Bob Parkhurst, Fox Sports. Obviously, you're on the pole, but was there anything about the track that you feel like needs to be changed for tomorrow?
I thought that Adam, Christopher Bell's crew chief, brought up a really, really good point, and that is coming off the final turn where pit entry is, there's huge barrels there. And with it only being a 40-mile-per-hour corner, we probably don't need those huge barrels. So if you could probably take one of those concrete barriers off the entrance of pit road, because there's no pit stalls for the first 3 stalls anyway, and move those barrels back, 20, 25 feet, it would allow us to go through the final corner a little bit faster so we're not causing a huge stack up with the cars that are pitting and the ones that are not. That's the only thing that I saw. Everything else was kind of what you expected with the course. Your passing zones are going to be in the first 6 corners, and then after that, you just got to maintain. No, the first 6 corners, is where, so 1, 2, that's where you're going to make the passes. The track gets so narrow after turn 6 that you're not going to do much there.
Matt Weaver, sportsnot.com. You mentioned that you had some concerns initially when it was first announced. What were those, and how were those kind of over time removed from your equation?
Well, one of the things was, running the simulator and seeing how bumpy it was. It was a mess. But when we came out here and saw all the extra paving that they did for the racetrack, it made it significantly better. So they really did a good job of smoothing out some of the big jumps that we had, down these straightaways. So I think that was one, and certainly, just how tight it is. I think it is a tight racetrack, but it is what it is, and I think it's got 3 to 4 major passing zones that if you can stay close enough, you'll be able to make passes. So I was worried about this thing just going single file, and it is what it, that's how you're going to finish. But I think that there's an opportunity if you have a fast car that you can go forward.
And typically when a guy like Kimi comes in or Jensen, you guys all say they're great race car drivers, but they don't have experience with the platform, and that's the reason they're behind. But with Shane, he drives a car that's very similar. Can he contend for the win tomorrow?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing I notice is the guy is lightning fast in all the corners. I feel super uncomfortable using that extra 3 inches against the wall. So where the track is the narrowest and, where actually you saw, Chase and those guys kind of get into the wall is where he is extremely fast. So he's just got a feel for those barriers and where he's, the car control that he has. And that's his advantage right now is that, we're not used to have to cutting the corners that tight, and he is. And so, it's been impressive what he's done today for sure.
All right, we have a couple questions over here. We'll try to get a mic. Go ahead, Kendall. Right behind you, Kendall. Thank you.
Hi, Denny. You're here in our city. I think I just heard you say this is probably the best day on the track in your entire career. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, it just, just going into a race that obviously has got a ton of hype, right? There's a ton of eyes looking at this race. Just the overall performance of our team today, from lap 1 of practice to the last lap of qualifying, we just have been strong on a track that is really tough, and everyone had to learn it at the same rate of speed. No one's got a veteran advantage at this type of racetrack. So it's just a very proud moment for our team to be able to come here on equal footing with everyone and perform as good as they did today. Again, I've never felt like I had more speed in reserve than what I did today. Like I just knew that, well, I can go get that. If you want me to run 4/10 faster, okay. I feel like there's areas I can go get that. Now there's risks with it. I think in the race you're going to have to just back it down slightly to take away 20-30% of risk. You're going to be a half a second slower lap, but you're going to take away the risk of making a huge mistake. And I feel like when you have a car as fast as mine, I'm able to back that up and still run fast enough pace.
All right, go ahead, Jordan.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Now that you've kind of seen this here, this proof of concept, would you like to see this idea transposed to other major cities, or is it possible to do that, you think?
I mean, I'm sure it's possible for sure. I would like to see, if we do have a street race, you'd like to continue to get momentum in the place that you're at. I think that, with it hopefully being a 3-year thing here, I think that there's a potential to continue to build it up bigger and bigger. And certainly after the trial and error that you have the first year here, there's way more efficiencies that they can gain by doing it the second time around. They're going to understand their timing better, be way more prepared when we get to the racetrack. The time to put it together probably would be cut 10%, 50% quicker. So yes, but let's, again, just let's not lose too much far from what we are, right? I think that it's great that we're visiting, doing a street race. We have so many different disciplines, but, you certainly got to keep us, doing what we do best, and that's side-by-side racing on ovals quite a bit.
Is there certain tracks you'd like to see added to the schedule?
Nothing offhand, no. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of great racetracks that, would be suitable. Even after running this thing on iRacing, I just was very skeptical of the layout of the track, but I just thought after driving it today, it has significant, it's a raceable racetrack. And so it's easy for me to say because I had such a great day, right? But I just think that there's tons of opportunities to make moves at this track, and so it's one that is very legitimate.
All right, we're going to go to Lee.
Lee Spencer Ketch. I'm sorry if this was asked already, but given Michael's relationship with this city, what do you think it would mean to him if you or your either one of your 2311 drivers would win this race tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, he's pumped up whether we're performing well at North Wilkesboro or we're here in Chicago. Honestly, I mean, it is a big city for him, and he's obviously did a lot for this city, and the city did a ton for him. But yeah, I mean, having 23-11 night at the Cubs yesterday was big, and just the fanfare that the 23-11 team has got from the unveiling of the car, and just social outlets that don't normally cover anything about racing because it's about something else is paying attention to that, and so that's how you grow the sport. And Michael's really proud of that team and the growth that they've got, the speed that they've got, and in such a short amount of time that team's been around. For me personally, it'd be right up there it'd have to be a top 5 win for me if we were able to do it.
And if it rains tomorrow, does it benefit Jensen or Shane, just given the fact that they've run so many street courses in the rain?
Probably, I would say probably, yeah. I don't know what we got. I was a little pessimistic today, coming in, just thinking, can I correlate what I've been practicing to the real thing? Certainly in the rain, I don't feel quite as confident, but we all gotta do it. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, we're going to go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I have a couple questions. As the pole sitter, and because this is an inaugural event, the restart zone's in a unique location, what is your responsibility to make sure that this doesn't look like a cluster at the start of the race? And is it something that you tell the whole field, hey, as soon as I hit the first line, we're just going to go, or as soon as I'm going to wait to the second line, and just communicate it through the field, because it doesn't make a difference to try to get something that's more important to get the clean start?
Well, I mean, this is a start, right? I mean, we definitely made a big shift into the restart zone for the road courses because we have looked kind of bad on some of these late race restarts. Moving it back to create a corner to then spread the field out slightly, trust me, it's still going to be crazy into turn 1, but it's just going to hopefully take us from not being bozos. That's the goal. And so it still may happen, but I certainly think that you don't really want to play a whole lot of games when it comes to that because it's not good for anyone. It really isn't. And it really a lot of responsibility will come from the second, third, fourth rows to not try to anticipate or jump the starts. I mean, you have to make a corner there. So it's, I think it's placed in probably one of the best spots it possibly could to avoid what we've been doing lately.
So to group text everybody and say, hey, let's just go at this point and do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think NASCAR probably would, deliver that message. I'm not sure that they listen much to me. They recognize I hit an open wall at Sonoma all by myself. So.
Other thing is the precision that is needed here, and I'm wondering, you are so good at Martinsville where you have to get into a rhythm, and it's not 90-degree corners, but it's certainly tight corners, and you have to do it over and over again. And somebody else, Chris Gabehart was talking about, he also felt like there's a mindset of speedway racing in thinking through things even more so here, and obviously you excel at that. Do you feel like those two elements, how they play a role in getting you into this position, not to take away anything from the car, but just how you've run a Martinsville, just how you've run on speedway racing, how this might, whether it helped today or whether it can help tomorrow after 100 laps?
I think that it will be, for the guys out there, as mentally grueling as any racetrack that we've got. Just simply because I think what Chris is talking about is that there is more speed out there, but the risk to go get it is going to be pushing it. So likely, if you have a chase scenario where you're trying to chase someone down for the lead, they have the lead. They're not going to run the most aggressive line. They're not going to cut the corners as tight as they possibly can. But the guy in second is willing to do it because he's going for it. So it could cause the field to tighten up. The leader will always race a little more conservatively. And so it's just weighing that risk that I think that he thinks that I try to do, and speedway racing and understanding when's the time to push and when's not.
All right, Matt Weaver. You're good? Do we have an additional question on this side? All good? Bob, go ahead.
How are both Gibbs and 2311 doing as far as all the changes to the cars for Atlanta? Do you feel like you'll be ready? And have you gotten a chance to maybe dissect those changes a little bit more and any impact they'll have?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly harder for a team like 2311 because we're not a manufacturing facility. We don't have a lot of the equipment that JGR has. And certainly, we have to lean on them quite a bit to help us execute those changes. What's the long-term effect of it though, right? It's, certainly the business model around the car was built around it being super rigid and you never having to replace anything. The softer it is, the more crunchable it is, the more it costs to crash them. And so what happens there, right? That's a cause and effect that we haven't seen quite yet. But luckily we have, a good agreement with JGR for when these things happen they have the manpower to help assist us make sure our cars are ready to go on time.
All right, Denny, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Congratulations again.